Welcome to Fright Night.
What do we get from the light of the sun?
A nasty burn, now isn't that fun?
Swim in the ocean, run on the beach,
Drown in the surf and blood like a leech.
we have no time for merrymaking. Chop off the head for badness sake, sell for a limb, batter and bake. Nasty spells of bubonic night. Come close and see what's hidden from sight. Something festering in my bed bugs dancing on my head. Ever offends and makes you scream. I want to die on Halloween.
Hey everyone, welcome to Get Busy Watching, and my second week of my Halloween special. Let's not waste any time on an unnecessarily long intro and just get right into the swing of things. Let's talk scary movies.
Bedbugs dancing on my head. Ever offends and makes you scream. I want to die on Halloween. Halloween, Halloween, I want to die on Halloween.
Under the bridge of goblin waits, she never sleeps or hesitates.
The remake to the 1985 original. The late and great Anton Yelchin is Charlie Brewster. Students have gone missing from his school, and his former friend Ed, played by Christopher Mintz-Plasse, is convinced that Charlie's new neighbor Jerry, played by Colin Farrell, is not only responsible, but is also a vampire. Though Charlie doesn't believe him at first, he eventually comes around.
That's it right there, Adam. He does not show up on the video. He's so nailed. Oh, so nailed.
It's not bad, and I do like this more than the original. It's not nearly as insufferable to sit through, and is smart enough to not make the same mistakes that the previous two did. Here's what's improved. Better characters, at least for the most part. Certainly, Anton Yelchin as Charlie is leagues more palatable to watch, as he's smarter about how he deals with the situation. He's resourceful, careful, smart, and is mostly likable. And when his actions have consequences, they do have a profound impact on him. Toni Collette and David Tennant obviously rock because that's just how they roll in movies. Imogen Poots is leagues better than the original romantic interest. Colin Farrell is different in a good way. I enjoyed him. Maybe not more than Chris Sarandon, but he nails his performance in his own way, opting for more creepy than pretentious. Christopher Mintz-Plasse, on the other hand, is a far better Evil Ed, and no joke, this might be my favorite performance out of the guy. While I usually don't approve of too much CGI in horror films, it's done really well here, as the Uncanny Valley actually makes Jerry this go-around more unnatural. And even though I don't necessarily agree with reviewers saying there's a good balance of comedy and terror, when the comedy hits, it hits pretty hard. As for any negatives, I have a few, though that might be a result of too much comparing and contrasting this one with the original. I fully admit that Yelchin is great in this, but I still don't understand why Charlie would approach a TV personality to legitimately help him deal with vampires. Watch enough movies and read enough books, you're your own expert. Certain plot beats, like Jerry being connected to Vincent's past, seemed unnecessary, as well as the world building of making Jerry out to be a special kind of vampire that can only be dealt with in a certain way, even though he's handled like every other vampire. And the rivalry between Charlie and Jerry doesn't exactly feel as strong as the original. You get spikes of truly awesome scenes that make you hate Jerry, but there's not enough of them going toe-to-toe, trying to outdo or outsmart the other. We get a better Charlie, but not a better feud between the characters. And really, no mutation into a giant bat monster? What a jip, man!
Don't need an invitation if there's no house.
While I'm sure there's plenty of die-hard fans of the original that don't like this one, I'm sorry, I didn't like the original. So, of course I would prefer this one a lot more. But I am curious to hear from those diehard fans what you didn't like about this one, and if any of my complaints or any of my positives sound familiar to yours. I recommend it, but it's still not a perfect flick. My honest rating for Fright Night, a strong 3 out of 5.
Welcome to Fright Night. For real.
Tell me a story full of betrayal. A headless horseman covered with snails.
A homeless drifter stumbles upon some sunglasses, and when he puts them on, he sees hidden subliminal messages in all of the advertisements around him, as well as netherworldly monster people masquerading as actual people.
I've got one that can see.
Okay, John Carpenter, I see you, and I legitimately can't tell if you're the master of horror or comedy. But then again, when you're satirizing capitalism, politics, and the American dream as a whole, I dare you to tell me what the difference is. And that's exactly what this movie seems to do. Is it a horror? Is it a comedy? Is it a balls-to-the-wall action romp? Yes. Well, kind of on that last part. At first glance, you'd be forgiven if you thought this was going to be boring, as it starts off almost wholesome and respectable as we follow the main character just looking for some honest work and be of help. And certainly the whole point of the story does take its time to get to where it needs to go, but I imagine a second viewing would reveal it's all a build-up. A good build-up. And when we get there, the satire is in your face and is delightfully relentless. To make matters even better, the relevance of this 1988 flick is as relevant now as it was back then. Any opinion different than the established right one is met with hostility, making for fantastic social media commentary today. Most people are completely oblivious, and those you try to convince to see your point of view can reject it violently until they see it for themselves. It's wonderful across the board. The performances are a lot of fun, and damn, look at Keith David all baby-faced. The action scenes are over the top, the makeup department outdid themselves, and oh man, there's so much to gush over.
Long hair.
Mama don't like tattletales.
Wearing sunglasses.
As for any negatives, there's really not many. They're all such nitpicks that I don't even think they really matter. As I previously stated, it takes a bit too long to get to where it needs to go. We don't get our first they until past the 30-minute mark. I do think for the sake of the story's symbolism, it sacrifices character intelligence. If you wore sunglasses that made you see aliens, wouldn't you stop a random person in the street and say, "Hey, are you seeing this?" just to confirm that you're not completely out of your mind? Most times, the protagonist just seems to be making dumbass decisions after dumbass decisions, never really progressing the plot until the message has run its course. So I guess pacing is the phrase I'm looking for. But that's kind of it, as each of these negatives are likely in the movie on purpose and serve a legit function if you think about it for a bit.
You see, I take these glasses off, she looks like a regular person, doesn't she, huh? Put them back on, formaldehyde face, that's what we got.
That's enough.
Upon its initial release, this movie apparently received a ton of negative reviews. But as seems to be the theme with John Carpenter, you have to see these in hindsight. And now it's got a cult following, and I can totally see why. So long as there's corporate shills, mindless consumption of products, and funny-looking politicians calling the shots, there is no way that you could make a movie like this and not make it the perfect balance of horror and comedy. My honest rating for They Live, a strong 4 out of 5.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Have a bad fright. I know a witch who's big as a whale, covered with boils, wrinkle and pale.
Spacefaring scientists have discovered space vampires and a very naked, very hot chick in suspended animation inside of Halley's Comet. They come back to Earth, and the very hot, very naked space vampire chick kills a bunch of people, turning them into space vampires, and now the good guys are hunting her down to stop her from causing pandemonium.
There must be hundreds of them.
Thousands. Dead, I hope.
There is a disappointment factor. And yet, in ways that I could never have predicted, a lot of it really works. And from a filmmaking standpoint, it has to be admired. The first thing that stood out to me was the score by Henry Mancini. Dear God, this hit harder than it needed to.
Yes!
Christ, it sounds closer to Star Trek than anything with space vampires. Or is it absolutely perfect? I can't tell! The sets in space are nice with solid production value, which is surprising because this wasn't made on a huge budget. The corpse designs for the puppets and animatronics are downright perfect. Fun fact, they were used in Brendan Fraser's The Mummy. And of course, Matilda May, the face and body of this entire movie. But legit, props to this girl. 18 years old when she first signed on. French, who never spoke English before, had to learn it pretty much on set, and sounds pretty flawless from what I could tell. She was a trooper during production, and to my understanding, put up with a lot of shit regarding her body. Not harassment per se, but clearly Tobe Hooper had an idea for how her character's hair should look in her nether regions, and then makeup artist Sandra Exelby's workaround sounded downright hilarious. But for real, May's acting was damn good. Struck the perfect balance of creepy, erotic, mysterious, fuck you, get the fuck away from me, all rolled into one, and barely ever speaking a line.
She's not human, she's not a woman. She'll destroy you. She's destroyed worlds.
But we gotta be real here. This is not a good movie. It's not a shit movie for the reasons I just listed above, but this was a wildly missed opportunity. How do you have a concept as simple as space vampires and not have the majority of the movie take place entirely in space? Less than 15 minutes worth? Are you fucking kidding me?
Oh, get the fuck out of here.
I assumed that was a budget thing, as the company that produced this is the same one that did Superman 4 and Masters of the Universe, i.e., they don't have the deepest pockets. But by the heavenly butthole of Jesus Christ, this should have taken place in space, damn it! As a result, having most of the action on Earth, it feels like it should have just been run-of-the-mill vampires. Not a whole lot of sci-fi going on until the final act, and it feels so innocuous that you could have easily written it off, saved some of that budget on marketing, and rolled with an even more minimalist flick. The acting, while good, feels like it's taking itself way too seriously, outside of one amazing line from Sir Patrick Stewart. I mean, this is about space vampires, guys. This isn't Nosferatu. You guys are at an 11, and you only needed to be at a 5, 5.5 tops. Just phone it in. Beyond that, it's not written especially well, spending much of its time setting up the rules of these vampires, and kind of commenting a little too much about how in love all these men are with her. An exaggeration, but still.
Where did you get his description?
Where is he now?
He's in solitary confinement. He's been naughty.
This is the kind of movie that you know deserves a remake. Set it in space, make sure that the vampire female is the only adversary, hire a porn star for the role, my vote would be Scarlet May, and really lean into the comedy because, I mean, this is a silly-ass idea, guys. Do not take this that seriously. And boom! You've got yourself a fun-ass movie gift-wrapped for the world. What we have here, however, is a pretty mixed bag, and I can see more than a few people hating on this. I won't necessarily argue that. But when it hits those high marks, it knocks it out of the park, both for legitimately good and admittedly horny reasons. My honest rating for Life Force, a strong 3 out of 5.
I'd say she's perfect. I've been in space for 6 months, and she looks perfect to me.
Watch your step, you'll have a great fall. I know a sight that will make you scream, I want to die on Halloween!
In a small hick town, a young boy is run over by a teenage motorcyclist and killed on accident. The boy's father, Lance Henriksen, seeks revenge by going to an old hag in the woods to summon a demon known by the locals as Pumpkinhead to kill the teens responsible, no matter the cost.
What you ask? Got a powerful prize.
They killed my boy.
on a list of 80s monsters that cropped up during that decade, this feels like the most underwhelming one. Now don't get me wrong, there are plenty of things to enjoy. They are worth pointing out, and this is a worthwhile watch, depending on what you're looking for. The easiest praise is Admiral Hackett himself, Lance Henriksen. He delivers such an earnest and impassioned performance that you'd think he was acting in high drama. He's that good in this. The legendary Stan Winston makes his directorial debut in this, and of course is responsible for bringing Pumpkinhead to life, and does a magnificent job once again. Though I think its pumpkin-inspired features are a bit too subtle to warrant the name, and just looks like a generic demon. But the artistry, the suit work, as captured by Tom Woodruff Jr., is on point and properly menacing. The rules for Pumpkinhead are straightforward, easy to understand, kind of, and does seem to have a mind of its own. My favorite scene being when it snaps a church cross in half for seemingly the spite of it. Like, it stops doing the job it was summoned to do just to be a dick to God. That's pretty interesting to me. But here we go, the negatives. I'm sure the die-hard fans are none too pleased to hear about what I have to complain about, but I am a brave man and I am going to voice them. My issues are the victims. They're too likable. It probably would have been generic of them to be adolescent sociopaths, but it's not exactly fun to see innocent people legitimately scared for their lives get brutally and violently murdered. And I might understand that's part of Henriksen's arc, that he regrets summoning Pumpkinhead and he tries to save the kids later on, but in the meantime, it's simply unpleasant. To make matters worse, the death scenes aren't even that brutal or violent, minus 1 or 2 deaths. But in a cast of, 6-7 victims, only 2 are worth getting squeamish at? And one of them is more hilarious than painful? I don't know, man. That's the other downside. I feel like Stan Winston is a god in terms of creature designs and movement, but as a director, he ironically doesn't have that much imagination. If you're a fan of creature features, you definitely need to check this out, especially if you have any respect for Stan Winston. Keep your expectations low for the violence and such, but I do weirdly recommend this. My honest rating for Pumpkinhead, a 3 out of 5.
Keep away from Pumpkinhead unless you're tired of living.
His enemies are mostly dead. He's mean and unforgiving.
Keep away from Pumpkinhead unless you're tired of living.
His enemies.
Excuse me? I'm Amy Farrah Fowler.
No way!
The sky turns red. There is no way to leave this room. Put on a hat and strap on a broom.
Set 6 years after the events of Bride, Glenn is the son or daughter of famed serial killer dolls Chucky and Tiffany on a quest to find them in Hollywood, where a movie is being made about them. When he does, they make a complicated pact to never kill again to set a good example for Glenn, but Chucky isn't too keen on keeping that promise. And they also get mixed up in the affairs of famed actress Jennifer Tilly fighting for a role in famed rapper Redman's new movie.
Oh my god, she's a complete slut.
Damn. I mean, it's not exactly a bad movie in my eyes. It absolutely has its comedic moments from Bride that I absolutely loved. But there are some noticeable downgrades, specifically in the plot and pacing. Too much of this movie follows Glenn struggling with his desires to not want to be a murderer like his parents, who don't make a legit appearance until 20 minutes in. The point is, Glenn's annoying. In a Chucky movie, we want mindless violence. Having a character that you'd think would be all about that and be all about avoiding it sucks out all the fun. It also takes way too long for Chucky and Tiffany to actually get down to transferring their souls to their new bodies. And last but not least, this is little more than the Jennifer Tilly show. And I mean that literally. Jennifer Tilly is the star of the movie, not Chucky. Make no mistake, I love Jennifer. She's hilarious, an icon, and if you put her in her own movie, I'd watch it 1,000,000 times. But in a Chucky movie? Come on, man, know your audience.
I kind of remember you screaming a lot.
Oh yeah, I seem to remember that too.
Yeah, I tend to have that effect on women.
But when all is said and done, I don't hate this. Even some of the negatives that I pointed out have some positivity connected to it. Jennifer Tilly is obviously a great sport about herself as an actress, and playing a slutty, desperate, self-centered, and self-deprecating version of herself is both brutal and hilarious. Despite how limited the death scenes are, they are pretty damn sweet, and if not especially violent, they're downright hilarious. As disrespectful as those jokes may be today. There's some decent fake-outs as to who the quote-unquote hero may be, and I really enjoy the ending where Chucky no longer cares about being human again and embraces his killer doll look. Frankly, it's about damn time.
Oops, I did it again.
There's really not too much to say about this one. The comedy doesn't quite land like Bride did, but when it does, it's pretty great. But as much as I love Jennifer Tilly, and I do, this is a Chucky movie and I would rather see him do his thing. I was let down, but not to the point where I outright dismiss this one. My honest rating for Seed of Chucky, a 3 out of 5.
I am Chucky, the killer doll, and I dig it!
I know I'm a freak, and of course, I know that I'm Japanese.
Fool of a took. No way!
Last summer, a group of teen friends have a drunken night of fun before going their separate ways. On their drive home, they hit a random dude and kill him. Not wanting to get in trouble for it, they decide to dump the body in the ocean. 1 year later, they're all stalked by a shadowy figure brandishing a hook for killing purposes who knows what they did.
Right here and now we take this to our grave. Agreed. Julie?
Not that I especially dislike this movie, but really, this and Scream were the movies that revitalized the slasher genre in the 90s? I don't know if I agree with that, man. I certainly don't think it retains a long-lasting impact on the genre either. Now, I do want to be fair here. There are some things about this movie I like. There absolutely are, especially in hindsight. Having been a casual fan of Big Bang Theory, it was kind of funny to see Johnny Galecki play an asshole simping for Hewitt, and pulling the role off so well that I legitimately kind of hated him. It's a bit part, but a funny one. The same goes for seeing Bridget Wilson Sampras, #MySoniaBlade. The acting across the board was awesome. I've always thought Hewitt was good, and this confirmed that for me, save for one scene of overacting, but I credit that to bad direction than her talent. Sarah Michelle Gellar was a hoot, as well as Ryan Phillippe, and I had no idea that this was the first time Gellar and Freddie Prinze Jr. shared screen time. And I like the gimmick of a fishing hook used as a killing weapon, leading to some chilling imagery. But that's where the positives end for me. It's not scary, and very little of it makes sense, which is saying a lot because the slasher genre isn't exactly known for making sense all the time. There are characters who die, and the only thing you can ask is, why? Even once you know the motivation behind the killer, why kill characters that have nothing to do with what happened? I mean, one character makes sense as collateral damage, but the other was... why? Why did that person have to die? This triggers a weird game of, oh, the guy we hit wasn't the guy we hit, the guy we hit was the guy we hit. To say any more is a spoiler, but if you've seen the movie, then you get it. There's a scene where Hewitt finds a corpse in the trunk of her car covered in crabs, and within literal minutes, the truck is cleared of the body and the crabs? In broad daylight in the middle of a suburban neighborhood? How did that go unnoticed? Fuck off! And what's with all the damage done to private property on the docks? How the hell are the police not more involved in these incidents? I think Scream should be given all the credit for revitalizing the slasher genre, because this one is wildly generic. Fine, it was cheap and a box office success, but had it not been for the main cast who do absolutely save this, that doesn't make it a good movie. My honest rating for I Know What You Did Last Summer, a week 3 out of 5.
He's just out there and he's watching us and waiting. What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for?
For about 2 minutes. But it didn't work out. You know, he never really said it, but I think it hurt him to be around me.
On my head, whatever offends makes you scream. I want to die on Halloween.
A group of promising university students help Kiefer Sutherland with an experiment. Kill him, then bring him back with evidence of life after death. The experiment is successful, but not without its side effects. Those who try the experiment themselves are soon haunted by the sins of their past, and it's unclear if they are real or psychological. I saw the remake with Ellen Page, now Elliot Page, and it sucked. I saw it months before it was officially released in theaters. It was like a test screening or something. All I remember about it is that there was nothing psychological. It was just a big shadowy monster. I don't remember it too well. It was utterly forgettable. This one is better. Look, it definitely has a lot more going for it and has a point. The problem is that it's wildly disconnected from the spooks and therefore doesn't make it a good film. When I say disconnected, here's what I mean. The scares are in the form of these characters facing the sins of their past, or their personal fears and or insecurities. But they face these fears by dying and experiencing what they experience. One would think this would mean if one of the Flatliners killed someone, that dead person would come back to haunt them, which is the case for one of them. But the rest of these characters didn't kill anyone, so why are they facing these moments in their lives? What do these things have to do with the afterlife, and why is it scary? And in the end, I don't think much was resolved by the time the credits roll. Who really learned a lesson, and who paid the price in a satisfying way that I'm supposed to cheer for? No one. As a result, I couldn't get into this.
Overwhelming the powers that be with the force of our passion for science. Or maybe we were just fucked in the head.
But is it all bad? No, there's plenty of good stuff to go around, and certainly makes it leagues better than the remake. The cast itself is worthy of praise. In addition to Sutherland, you've got Julia Roberts, Kevin Bacon, Oliver Platt. Dude, that's some serious star power right there. But obviously their mere existence isn't worth writing home about. It's the performances that count, and their talents aren't squandered. Everyone delivers. Clearly some characters and their struggles are more in theme with what the story is going for, and the ones that benefit the most are Sutherland and Roberts, especially Roberts. Oliver Platt is always a quality talent with his dry, fast-talking humor, and of course, the great hero himself, named Kevin Bacon, absolutely rocks the show, delivering a surprisingly energetic and impassioned performance for a horror flick like this. Give the late Joel Schumacher credit. When he wants to bring out the best in an actor, the man is up there with the best directors.
You should have told us, Nelson.
You wouldn't have done it. At least we would have had a choice.
There are clearly good ideas here. If the writing had been just a little more focused, this could have been a solid film about grief and guilt. But as is, there's just a little too much going on. And frankly, without the cast, this would have been a whole lot worse. My honest rating for Flatliners, a 3 out of 5.
Sorry, God. I'm sorry. We stepped on your fucking territory! I'm sorry!
Thanks so much for joining me on my second week of Halloween month, everybody. Now, I'm going to give a quick disclaimer here. I might have to skip out on week 3 and 4, just because I haven't really done anything with my House of the Dead deep dive, so I'm going to focus on that. If I have time to do more reviews, I will. But for now, I'm going to put those on hold so I can get what I really want to do out of the way. So for now, Have a great day. Stay safe and healthy, everyone. Hope to see you soon.
And we'll take your restless soul. Something breathing in the hole. Heed the...
There gotta be some kind of mutation.
Yeah, from what? The shrinking ozone? What, too little sunscreen? Rudy, give me a break. These are zombies, pure and simple.